Hi everyone, and welcome to Tuesday night here on the APAT show. Tonight's guest is a recreational poker player who's putting his knowledge of the game to very good use through the publication of a fictional series of poker-inspired novels. Sharkbait and This Is Where You Fold author Robert Needham joins us. He's going to share the personal story of his journey to become an author in a pretty cutthroat industry, it has to be said. We will also be following your squad's play, of course, and we'll have Turbo Millionaire at 11 p.m. Now, the big news there is that this week's winner of Turbo Millionaire will also receive a personally signed copy of This Is Where You Fold from Robert, and what a nice little prize that will prove to be. Okay, we will be right back with you after this. Lee, I don't know what it was when Rob posted on the APAT forum just over a week ago, telling us about his two books that he'd recently published. But he hit a bit of a heartstring in me, I think. And, I felt we just had to have him on. His story is really, really interesting. Have you looked to see whether he's got a poker record at all?
Well, I have had a little look. And I mean, I've got myself caught out once or twice here when I've looked at people up on the Hendon mob, and then they say, "Oh no, it's actually not them." But I'm hoping that the Robert Needham that's on the Hendon mob has got a few results, got a Vegas cash as well.
Really?
So,
nice.
So clearly can play poker as well as write about it. So welcome to the show, Rob Needham.
Hiya, how's it going?
It's very, very good, I would say, Rob, despite the crazy times that we find ourselves in. But more to the point, how are you? How has the last couple of weeks been with sort of all of the sort of exciting things that have been happening?
It's been amazing, to be honest with you. Honestly, the reaction from launching the book and kind of the feedback and stuff that I've had from people has been absolutely amazing. So it's been, I guess, like a lot of work's gone into it, and it's nice to see the results from that now as well. So yeah, super exciting.
No, absolutely. And listen, you've got some big stuff happening in your personal life as well. I believe this is your good wife, your good lady wife, Christina. Is that right?
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
And you've got a baby on the way.
We do. Yeah, she's due in August. So yeah, not long to go.
Exciting. Your days will change, my friend. Whether you'll still have the same amount of time free for writing, whether Steve Ash can survive the birth is the question. Okay, we've got a lot of people in the chat room. They're all beginning to file in now to watch the show with us. So let me see if I can pick out some names. You might even recognize some of these names. So Shirley Cole is there. Shirley is your competition winner. And we're going to come back. We have to talk about that. I thought that was a great competition. Don Logan is with us. Asa McGrath is with us. Jason Chilmate is there. Colin McCarthy is back after some great poker over the last couple of days. Asa says, evening all, with a smile as he does. Tony Trippier is there. What a night we had with Tony T on Saturday night. It was incredible stuff.
I'm assuming he's still on the gin.
He's probably still on the gin. I would imagine he's got some sort of intravenous device that is somehow linked to, I don't know, Weatherspoons locally or something. Is that the right call? Shirley says, hi, Rob. Good luck tonight. So good luck to you from us all, of course. Lou Brush is there. Now, there's a man with a story or two, and we've heard some of them. Steve 40 is there. He continues to call me Les. So I'm not going to call out his stuff while he calls me Les. How about that for a deal for everyone? There we go. And he abuses Liverpool as well. We can't have that in here. And I've learned, Rob, you're a Watford fan.
I am.
So we're going to be able to talk football as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we're going to do that. So Lou says, hi, guys. Lou is, of course, Shug. Hi to you, Shug. Peter Wigglesworth is in. Simon Lawler is in. Richard White is there. Frank Bailey. Dave Potts is in. Adam Phelan. Shirley's asking questions already. Lisa Greer is there. Grant Spears. Lisa says, bonjour. Coconut Rob? I think she's saying something like that. Well, listen, there's a lot of people in, Rob. They want to hear your story. And I guess, the guys will have questions. I know I've got a lot of questions. Leigh will have questions. So I guess we had better start on it. Now, why don't we gently ease our way in? I think, first of all, by understanding, what tournaments these guys that have been talking to us just now, what tournaments they're playing tonight. Then we'll get into some of the nitty gritty. Leigh.
Sounds good to me.
Well, that's over to me then, isn't it?
That
Very
is
much
over
so.
to you, my friend.
That was you doing a subtle handover to me tonight.
That was
normally
me. That was me
normally
remembering the
way-
handover before I asked the
I was gonna
first
say.
question.
That was because I genuinely was listening to you going, okay, so he's going to go straight chatting to Rob. Then all of a sudden he took a last-minute divert.
We're not proud on this show, guys. We're not proud. We fuck it up sometimes. I have to say, excuse me.
It's all right. No, I was ready and waiting just in case. So don't worry. It was,
Oh, dear.
it wasn't the best pass in the world, but Des, I'm going to make it look good. Don't worry, you'll be fine.
Do your
So
best
it's a
for me.
Tuesday night, which means it's heads up. Started at 7 o'clock. We're actually down to the final table of that now. Luckily, the guy from Greece is no longer in because I was going to struggle with his name if he was in the final two, but he's not. But the heads up final is Maximilian Schneider versus Kirill Kochov. They're both playing out for just over $100. Jamie White was one of the semi-finalists in that as well. Obviously, it's Poker Squads, which is Tuesday night. It's pot limit Omaha high-low. We were panicking a little bit until we had a quick chat with Rob beforehand, and Rob said it's his favourite
Loves
game.
it. Loves
It's
it.
only his favourite game. So that's going to be absolutely
Unbelievable.
superb later on. Honestly, who books these guests? So there's 130 runners in that. We've got 43 remaining. We are paying top 18 in that, so we'll keep you posted on what's going on that. And we've also got a Sunday roller feeder started at 9 o'clock. There's 5 levels to go in that. 21 runners, 7 remaining. I would suggest probably 2, maybe 3 might take a stack through. Shug is in that. Terry Bowker's in there. Dean Pearson. Young Duffy, Benjamin Burnhill's in there. Carey's in there. Ellen Gascoigne and JP Round are the remaining players in there. Good luck to all of you. But obviously, our focus is going to be chatting about the books and to Rob, really, to start with.
Fantastic.
So let's get on with that.
That was beautifully handled, Leigh, I have to say, like a true professional. Now, what I'm going to do is I've got the roller up, so I'm just going to pop that up. So there's a bit of poker going on in the background. Now, the first question, it just has to be, it's got a bit boring at this point, but it just has to be about lockdown because it's such a big thing. How has it impacted your last 10, 11, 12 weeks, work-wise, how are the family coping with it, stuff like that? Rob, why don't we start there?
Sure. I think it's been difficult for everyone, right? So it's a complete change to how life as normal goes on. For me, I've been working from home for a lot longer than the lockdown period anyway, so I don't do it all the time, but I've had experience of doing it, so it wasn't that difficult to transition into that. But it's just little things like I didn't realize quite how much the desk at the office stopped me getting backache until I tried to sit at the kitchen table for 8 hours, 5 days a week. And now I have a pile of books. My old textbooks from my degree have come in very useful to keep the screen at the right height, so I don't get backache. But the worst thing about it is that then I have to hold my hands up to type on the keyboard, so I still haven't quite managed to perfect it yet. But it's been okay. My wife's been furloughed as well, so she's been at home. So we've managed to spend a bit more time together than we normally would, which has been nice. And obviously, it's also meant that I've been able to put a bit more time into writing the books too.
Yeah, I mean, that's got to be the big plus, right? So,
Yeah.
it's in some respects when you're about to have a baby and stuff, it's, it's certainly, it sounds quite nice that you're both together and sort of, I think that's great because you'll really value this time as your every waking hour disappears.
Yeah.
In the months to come, it's all ahead of you, Rob. So good to hear that lockdown is, proving successful, despite that rather elegant description of your work environment. It sounds a bit scary, I have to say. So let's talk about where you were born. So you're currently in Hertfordshire. Is that correct?
That's right. Yeah, that's
so
right.
what part in particular, where are you based?
So actually in Hartford itself.
Oh, so you're in Hartford itself. Okay.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
where were you born and raised?
So I was born in Wakefield.
Oh, okay.
And then we moved around quite a lot whilst I was younger. So I lived in Skipton for a little while.
Okay.
And then moved to Blackpool when I was around about 10 years old. And I kind of say that's really the place that I feel I come from, because it's the place where I remember the most things and grew up there, really. So I have lots of friends in Blackpool. My parents still live there. So we go back quite a lot as well.
Oh, great. We know a lot of people in Blackpool. We've been to Blackpool many times. We've had some of our greatest weekends in Blackpool. And by we, of course, I mean APAT. We tend to hold our UK team championship there. And, we bring players from all over the country. And, even though it's mostly at the end of January or at some point in February, and it's never warm as such.
I was going to say, we pretty much prop up the Blackpool economy in January.
We do. But you're still by the seaside. I mean, you have to be brave to get out there into it, but you're still by the seaside. It's a great thing. So when did you leave Blackpool?
So I left Blackpool about 8 years ago. So it was just after I'd finished my degree. I didn't get a job, so I had to move back in with my mum and dad, which was quite hard to do after all those years of independence. But we managed. We made it work.
It's got to be done, right? It's got to be done.
Yeah, that's it.
Absolutely. So you moved around quite a lot as a child. What does mum, dad do? Something interesting that involves moving, or?
No. They've done lots of different things over the years. So my dad is a nurse at the moment. He works in research for lots of different illnesses and things like that.
Okay.
At Blackpool Victoria Hospital. And then my mum works for the council, so she helps manage people. She kind of says whether people can claim benefits or not. So some people don't like her.
I'm guessing she's had quite a busy 3 months then.
Yes, yeah.
I would think so. It's I mean, it's a very tough time for some people, of course. So that's an interesting experience to have had quite young. And tell me, what was Blackpool like? Sort of, I guess your formative years, really, your teenage years and stuff. What was that like as a town growing up in? What was the young Rob up to?
I loved it. I really did like it. I think there's so much going on there that it's hard to not, there's lots of things to go out and do with friends and things like that. And school was really good as well. So, I think it was the basis. I'm still friends with a lot of people there as well. So it's great to go back, but I just have really good memories of being there, really.
Yeah. So one of your mates, right? How would he describe you? Okay, so were you the smart kid? Were you the sporty kid? Were you just a funny kid? I mean, what was your thing? How would you describe, or how would one of your mates describe you?
I don't know. My wife might kill me for saying this, but I think they might say I was a bit of a ladies' man, to be honest with you.
Bit of a ladies' man. Yeah. Okay, we haven't had too many of them in, Lee, I have to say. Oh, that's good. There's nothing wrong with that.
No, I do seem to remember having lots of girlfriends at school. So, I don't know what that says, whether that's a good thing or not.
Well, it could well be that the girls of Blackpool weren't brave enough to go to the top of the Big Dipper on their own. It could be that, it's got that sort of frightening aspect to it. I have to say, I've been on that bloody thing once or twice. It doesn't half get high at points.
Yeah,
but
especially when it's windy.
Especially when it's windy and everything is rocking. Absolutely. Yeah. So, what did you want to be? So, when you were a teen, I mean, did you have any inkling that racing was going to be part of your future? And I appreciate you're going to have to sell quite a lot of books and impress a lot of people before you get to the point that it becomes a career all on its own, right? I would imagine that's the case, and that's fair enough because you're in the game now, right? So you've got a chance. But did you have any aspirations as a young man to write stuff? Were you creative in that way?
Not particularly. I actually hated English at school, but I think I was involved in lots of things. So I was the lead singer of a band.
Wow.
And did things, acted in things on YouTube and things like that. So I was always interested in kind of creative things, but never really writing so much back then.
Okay.
And then kind of strangely, at the opposite side of that, when I was really young, the thing that I wanted to do was become an investment banker, which might be controversial, but it never happened in the end, I think.
Oh, damn. Listen, Lee, I really liked this guy 2 weeks ago. You know, he's this heartfelt message on the... And now he's in a rock band. He's an actor. He's probably scoring goals up front for the Oystons. You know, he's got all the girls in Blackpool. I hate him. I hate him now. I have to say, he's an awful guy. Let's try and cut this thing short. Let's try and get him off subtly if we can. I have a challenging question for you, actually, but I need to set it up. So let me do... What do I got to do? I got to do that and that and that. Okay. Now I've put a picture on the screen. So if you've got the live stream close by, this will pop up in about 20 to 30 seconds. So sorry, guys, if you're watching the poker, that's gone for the moment. It'll be back very, very shortly. Now, I've got a question for you before this picture pops up, and I'll see when it pops up. There it is. It's there now. What did you do at uni?
I studied economics at uni.
Wow. I just hate you more. I mean, you just do all of these things so well. It's awful. No, it's absolutely brilliant. So, can you see the picture?
It hasn't come up yet. I can still see poker.
It hasn't come up. Okay. It'll come up. It'll come up. Economics. And tell me, how far did you take that? I mean, have you gone on to, you know, to work in a business department?
So, no, I went into retail after.
Oh, retail is good. I spent a lot of years in retail. Working for the likes of Argos at head office, being a buyer and stuff like that. Absolutely loved it. So what did you do in retail?
So most of the time I've been working in supply chain. So getting stuff from one place to another, basically.
That is the hardest bloody job, isn't it? It sounds easy, but there's always stuff that isn't on file that shows up, or stuff that you can't find that is on file. Sell-throughs, crap, clearance, markdown, nightmare, right? But have you found it enjoyable?
Yeah, definitely. So I think it wasn't actually something I was looking to get into when I first applied.
Nobody looks to get into supply chain.
I think when I first did the interview that I had, so I started working at Tesco, at the Tesco head office.
Yeah,
and
great.
The lady that interviewed me, I was applying to be a buyer, and the lady that interviewed me thought that I would work very well in supply chain, and so pushed that agenda, I guess, and they offered me the job in supply chain. And at the time, I was just happy to take any job that I got offered, to be honest with you. So,
well, to be honest,
so I said yes.
I would imagine Tesco is a great company to work for generally. And, you know, clearly they'll have seen your maths, economics, data background, which is very important in supply chain. What you need to do now is continue to impress them until you're selling lots of books, and then try and move into the buying department, right? Because you're working pretty closely with the buying team, I would imagine. I know the route you're taking. I can see it. So do you see the image yet?
Yes.
Now, here's the question. Okay, and the question will not be a surprise. But what colors do you see?
So I would say white and then light blue.
Oh, that's interesting. That is really interesting. What do you see, Lee?
Well, I'm looking at a grey and it's like a turquoise, isn't it?
Yeah. Okay. It'll be interesting to see what anybody else sees out there, because apparently, if you see the light blue, turquoise, grey combination, you are very data orientated, right? I'm not sure whether it's the right-hand side of your brain or the left-hand side of your brain, but one side of your brain, the side that is very data orientated, very numbers based. That's what sees that particular color set. And apparently, if you're very creative and arty, you see a pink-ish color combination. So it's a really interesting. Yeah, seriously. You know, yeah. So
which bit of it's pink?
The grey.
The grey is pink.
Yeah, the grey or white is pink. Yeah,
it's another one of these.
It is.
What was
Absolutely
it? The blue dress and the black and gold dress.
I've been through this with 7 people in my family, and I swear to God, 4 of us see one set of colours, and 3 of us see another set of colours.
How are you getting on with lockdown, though? You're all right. Are you coping, yeah?
We're coping just fine in the one room. We just can't get this lady in Blackpool to sign off our benefits for the bigger place. It's terrible. Yeah, so everybody's seen Turquoise and Grey. I mean, maybe everybody's pulling the wool over my eyes, and they've been joking with me all along. But it's pretty well, it's pretty well known, that one. So, okay. That means you're a data guy, if there's any truth in it, Rob, which is interesting because, of course, you're showing a hell of a lot of creativity.
Yeah, pack in the books, Rob. Just pack in the books now. It's not going to be successful.
It's supply chain from here on in, Rob.
Yeah.
You know, we've done our test of you, and I'm afraid the result is fail. You've just failed.
Yeah. To be honest with you, I think I've just got to put the pens away now, don't I? Get back to the career grind.
Do not put those pens away. So when did the writing start to come out?
So it kind of came about in a bit of a roundabout way. An idea popped into my head about a year and a half ago to write a book. So I mentioned before about there's that little time where I moved back in with my mum and dad. So throughout that period of time, I was applying for lots of jobs, specifically graduate jobs. And because I was applying for so many and just doing it all the time, I got quite good at it. And I felt that once I'd been offered a job, that knowledge got lost. And so I wrote a book specifically about applying for graduate jobs. And kind of naively assumed that I would be able to upload it to Amazon and then the money would sort of start rolling in. And of course, that isn't what happened. You know, it didn't sell anything. And so I then started to look into the marketing and how you go about doing that. And one of the things that kind of came through is that the best way you can make a successful career as a writer is to write a series of books. And I didn't think that there's two parts. I didn't think there was much additional series that I could write about applying for jobs that I'd really be qualified to say. So I kind of took a bit of a step back and thought about it, and I've been playing poker by that point for quite a long time. And I know that writing, you know, doing something that you're passionate about is a great way of making sure that you stay motivated to do it, right? So if you just went and tried to do something that you know is going to make you loads of money, then that's not going to work because it'll feel like a grind to do it. And it was right around the same time that all the stuff came out about Mike Postle.
Okay.
Which I found quite interesting. So I was just started sort of looking into that story and how it kind of captured the poker world at least, and some of the mainstream guys. Everyone was talking about it at that point, and that got me thinking about, well, what if I could write a story about a guy who maybe goes about cheating at the game, but you know he's doing it for good reasons. And then this story started to form in my mind, and then I just started writing it down basically. And that is sort of what led to writing the series of books that are out now.
So I mean that's a fantastic way to describe why you're writing the particular themes that you're writing. I think it makes such a huge amount of sense. I mean, it'd be so easy to try and become a writer of, you know, a detective novel and just not know a huge amount about the whole forensic process and all of that sort of stuff. So it just makes a tremendous amount of sense. But having an idea and, you know, knowing your subject matter well doesn't, of course, mean that you'll be a really good writer, which, you know, you clearly are. Nor indeed does it mean that you'll have the dedication to actually, you know, put all of that effort into, you know, writing a pretty significant book and then deciding partway through that you're going to write a novella on top, and you know whether you've done that for promotion or you know I really don't know. But you know where did you get your technical skill from? So you know was that naturally found, or did you look for creative writing courses? Did you do anything to sort of evolve what you already had?
So the way that I started doing it was that I wrote a few chapters down. And then asked a few people to read the stuff that I'd written. And I trusted those people to tell me that if it was rubbish and I should stop, that they would say that and I wouldn't be offended by that response either. Yeah. But they didn't say that. They said that they thought it was good and to keep going. And so I did. I kept writing and eventually ended up with a manuscript that was, you know, the kind of the book that came out. And then from that point, I wanted to make sure I did it professionally. So I've got the cover professionally designed, and you know, I wanted to make sure I got it edited
Brilliant.
by a, you know, professional editor. And when the editor got it, my kind of view of how good the story was shattered basically, and I had to go back and rewrite lots of different things. um, so, but going through that process of having the editor go, why don't you think about doing this? What's happening with here? And she was great. She was, you know, particularly anal about, you know, certain bits of description and what you know, how has this character got from one place to the other, and
Fantastic.
and you know, that sort of thing. And that was how it developed, and going through that process. So when it came to writing the next book, I had all that experience of knowing what stuff to look for.
Oh, that sounds like a really sensible investment. And was that something you had to pay for yourself personally?
Yeah, it is. Yeah. So
it makes perfect sense, and I, you know, admire you for doing that. And tell me, how do you develop your plot? So, you know, I don't know whether you're working on, you know, book 2 of the Steve Ash series at the moment, but do you know at an early stage in writing how the story is going to evolve? Do you understand where your finishing point is before you start?
So I know how the whole series is going to end. I know what the ending is going to be in my head already.
Yeah.
I'm not 100% sure how I'm going to get there yet, and I'm sure that will evolve as we go. I think the way that I started, so the way that I started the second book was to start with the hook for the story. So you know, as long as you've got something that kind of grabs the attention and makes you want to go, or want to know a bit more about that, that's usually a good sign for a good story. So now that I've done, because I have done lots of courses and things as well to try and improve this, improve the way that I write the books, you know, I think that the knowledge that I've gained from that's helped with the writing process. So I'm much more. There's two kinds of writers. So there's a pantser, which is someone who just makes the story up as they go, and then there's a plotter. And so I kind of sit somewhere in the middle of that now, where I've got a bit of an idea of where I want to go, but not so strict that there's an element for creative along the way as well.
No, fantastic. And tell me, how did Sharkbait fit in? Because evidently that wasn't your first book, albeit it was the first one that you released, and it's based on, you know, your second, which is the first of the Steve Ash series. So at what point did you think, this is a good idea, let me do this as well?
So as I was writing This Is Where You Fold, I started writing about Grant Johnson, who is the main protagonist of Sharkbait. And so in This Is Where You Fold, he's one of the secondary characters who kind of becomes Steve's best friend. And I wanted to have him be a really good guy, but have come from a difficult situation. And so I wrote a very quick slapdash paragraph about him having been in prison and becoming very good at poker whilst he was in prison, and then kind of left it at that. I didn't think any more of it right up until I'd finished the book. And one of the things that I wanted to do was to offer a free book so that people would be able to try the writing out. Obviously, I'm brand new to this, so for people to make that initial purchase of the book, I wanted to be able to offer them, you know, kind of a no friction way of seeing whether they like the writing or not. And lots of people will like it, and that'd be great, and there'll be some people who don't, but it costs them nothing to kind of reach that decision. So the idea for writing Sharkbait came when I was going back through and reading the edited book and thought, you know, I think there might be a bit of a story in that. There's definitely room for exploration. And in fact, when the editor got it back, she put, you could expand on this a little bit. And she was right, because I managed to get the whole novella out of it.
Yeah. I mean, it seems to me to be like a really smart strategy. Obviously, one doesn't write a novella, 150 odd pages,
Yeah.
just simply for a strategy, because that takes a lot of work. But the thought process of, having a character who leads into a series of books that you can actually sell as a standalone or give away indeed as a standalone sort of taster of your work, that seems really, really smart. Is that a widely used sort of approach by new writers?
Yeah, so there are lots of writers that do that. And one of the things that's particularly within indie authors, so authors who go through a publisher probably wouldn't do something like that. But authors who publish themselves do that. And one of the things that they try to do with that as well, which I've been involved in, is that they create pages where all of the free books that people have are on one website, and then you can click through and try, and lots of people can try different books.
Yeah.
And so that's one of the ways that you can grow the reach that you have.
Oh, so what a great idea. I mean, I was very used to authors putting a prologue to their next book within the current book. So it would be at the end of the current book, and it would give you a taster of what was coming next. And hopefully that wasn't too long away. Very used to that. But I have to say, I thought this was very, very smart. Tell me, what sort of level of success have you had with it? I mean, still relatively early days, of course, Rob, but what sort of response have you had to your work so far?
I mean, it's been amazing, really. I've had loads and loads of downloads, so we're getting up to around 500 downloads of Sharkbait now.
That's amazing. That's great.
I'm pretty chuffed with it, considering it came out 2 months ago. It's been downloaded more than I think I'd expected it to be honest with you.
And you've got a very nice CRM system going there as well. I mean, the emails come out very often. They're very topical. They talk through fresh, there's a fresh approach in every email that you send out. Again, where did you get that from? That's almost like a product manager's sort of approach to this, as opposed to a wholly creative sort of author. It's quite strategic in the way you're approaching your customer base.
Yeah. So one of the things that so when I wrote the first book, which was the one about the grad scheme, and I started doing some of the research into the marketing, it kind of came from that. So there are some of the emails are so the way that I try to phrase the emails are along the lines of, I was sat in a pub having a pint with whoever it is that I'm sending the email to, and trying to phrase it in a way that's friendly and approachable.
No, it definitely does that. It does invite you back into reading them, and I would imagine you get a pretty good open rate on them. Okay, so tell us a little about Sharkbait then, just without giving away too much of the story.
I have to say, don't give anything away.
Yeah.
I love this kind of stuff, and I've not read either of them yet.
Oh,
so,
Lee, you're really gonna enjoy this. In fact,
as I've said on the show before, I mean, my poker bookshelf is obviously got a lot of strategy bits and pieces, and a lot of the books we've talked about over the past few weeks. But also in there are things like, I've mentioned Ben Mesrick and Bringing Down the House, which got turned into 21, and he's also got other books like Ugly Americans and Breaking Vegas. The Anthony Holden books, Big Deal and Bigger Deal, absolutely love those. What else have I got up here? Biggest Game in Town, Johnny Magic and the Card Shark Kids by David Kushner. Amazing book. I love the kind of whether it's fictional or it's based on real stuff, but the non-strategy stuff, just the general, the kind of down and dirty poker, Vegas, the gambling world. Absolutely love that kind of stuff.
Go for it. Tell us a bit about Sharkbait and Mr. Johnson.
Yeah. So Sharkbait is a story about a guy who has just finished. He's studying for a maths degree, and he's just finished his dissertation, and he's got one exam left to do, and to celebrate the fact that he thinks he's basically passed his degree. He goes on a little bit of a boozy night out with some of his friends, and they kind of peer pressure him into buying some drugs.
They do, don't they?
Yeah. So he goes and buys some cocaine. And unfortunately for Grant, the bouncers, as he's trying to get into the nightclub, find it and then kick him out. And they make a very public display of doing this as well. And as a kind of bit of double bad luck, it happens just as the police come around the corner and see that he's being thrown out for having drugs. And so they arrest him, and he's tried for possession with intent to supply, and basically goes to prison. And whilst he's in prison, it's an environment that he's not used to being in. He's, you know, a nice, friendly guy, and he's suddenly surrounded by people who aren't necessarily wanting to be friends with him, or, you know, think they might be able to take advantage of him.
It's like being at a GUKPT, Lee.
Exactly, yeah.
It's like being at a GUKPT. Sorry, carry on, Rob.
So, as part of the way that Grant tries to remedy the situation, he goes around looking for different ways that he can make money so that he can basically keep people off his back. And so he starts off by trying to sell tuition in maths, which is not met particularly well. But as he's doing that, he stumbles across the prison poker game and watches for a little bit, and then decides that he thinks he could do that quite well and wants to have a bit of a go at it. Wow. And that's kind of where I'm going to leave it, I think.
Yeah, I think that's fair enough. Has that whetted your appetite, Lee?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I'm just finding. I'm going to get on and get the Sharkbait downloaded, and then I will get on and get Amazon order done, and get stuck into both of them. Can't wait.
Well, listen, there's just a couple of questions that I've got from that little teaser, and I want to talk about your other book then. First of all, you cross me as being a very thorough young fella. So how do you know how much 5 bags of Coke cost?
I did a lot of research on the internet.
No, but it's a serious question. It's not serious. I'm not asking it for that reason. But how much detail do you go into in terms of researching the details in your book? How important is that to you to get that right?
No, yeah, massively important. So one of the things that actually it kind of comes from seeing poker in films. So one of the things that really kind of winds me up a little bit is when you watch a poker scene, and then it comes to this final showdown where one player's got a straight flush, one player's
crazy hand,
or
Casino Royale.
Exactly, that's what I'm thinking of. That's exactly what I'm thinking of.
Yeah, no, I think that's great. Yeah, it's a terrible thing to see.
That's it. I think one of the, I don't know about lots of the stuff that I'm writing about, but I want it to be as true to real life as it can be. So there are bits like, I've never been arrested. I've never been interviewed in a police cell or anything like that. So trying to do a bit of research on what that looks like was very important to try and kind of get that right. And there are bits where it's, I kind of leave it a little bit, to the imagination. So,
yes.
So there's bits that are, let's say, the truth gets stretched a little bit, but I do that where I think it will improve the storyline.
Of course. Well, you've got access to DS Shirley Cole now, so
yeah.
Further down the road, she'll be able to help you with some of the detail. Oh, the detail. Now I've got a second question. So your lead character in Sharkbait, one Mr. Johnson. I started this book quite excitedly, and within a couple of paragraphs, I was starting to scratch my head. So see if you recognise who this character could be, Lee. First of all, he's obviously smart and good looking. Let me carry on. He's got an Irish friend, which means he could be Irish, right? He could be. We don't know. He's got a deep interest in poker. We learn as time goes on. He's ginger. Okay. And he doesn't have a Ferrari. I think this character was based on me.
It does sound pretty much nailed on for you.
I think it's nailed on. I think that's me. I think I deserve some form of royalty from the free book. Drat, there's my my bad luck. Who are you basing your characters on? So, Mr. Ash, Mr. Johnson, and others. Obviously, you've done this wonderful competition to, have a name check within the book, which I think is fantastic. Love it. But who do you base your characters on? Do you have certain real life people in mind when you sort of scope these characters out?
So some of the characters are ones that I've kind of just made up. So I think more of them as the traits that I want them to have. So they might have something that specifically drives them, and that's how they develop. And then I try to just mix the descriptions up so they don't all look the same. Because if I had people who had black hair all the time, then that would get confusing. But there are certain characters where they are based on very specific people, either famous people, people from the poker world itself, or just other people that I know personally. Obviously, I would never tell them if they were a bad character.
Yep.
So it's kind of drawn from lots of different places.
So can we get an exclusive reveal on any character?
The problem is all the bad characters are based on real people.
That makes it even better for us. Let's do it. No, okay, we won't.
So Rob, what was your live poker experience then, where you've come in contact with kind of the poker world that you then base these characters on? So was it a lot of it in playing in Blackpool, or was it when you were playing at uni, or what was how does it work?
So a lot of it sort of, I kind of dabbled with poker a lot for a long time. So when I was at university, I played a little bit, but not a lot, because as you know, students are skint anyway. So
just in case mum and dad are listening, you were knuckling down hard to make sure you get the best opportunities you possibly could for your degree. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. But my real kind of, where I really got involved with poker was when I moved to Hartford. So actually, one of my friends and I were looking for somewhere to play pool, and we happened to walk into a pool hall, and there was a load of poker tables around the pool hall as well. And so I asked the guy behind the bar whether there was a poker game happening, and as it happened, there was one that was happening tonight that was £10 entry. And so I returned later that evening without my friend because he wasn't interested. And that was kind of when I started to meet lots of people in the local area, and lots of the people that I'm still playing with now. That's kind of the place where I started to meet them and get involved in the whole thing.
That's
and then
pretty cool.
Yeah, I just not stopped playing really since. I really.
And so that type of environment, you see a wide variety of poker players and characters, probably more so than you would if you were playing regularly in a casino environment, I would imagine. Kind of the kind of more pub poker and pool poker, the private club kind of things. Yeah, it tends to have a real smorgasbord of poker characters, like as if like you would have of the old back in the day in Vegas kind of thing. Those type of characters.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, one of the things that I really like about poker is that you do meet those people. It's not. There's lots of people that play that I probably wouldn't speak to if it wasn't for the fact that we were both sat at the table playing cards. So, you definitely get that diversity of people playing.
So that would have been somewhere like O'Reilly's, I would imagine, with both pool and poker. That sort of establishment.
It was that kind of thing. It was a private company, just one that's in Hartford.
Yeah.
And they're an independent company.
Yeah.
But yeah.
But sort of respectable to a degree, as opposed to it's not like a scene out of oh gosh, what was that Rounders movie? The Russian with the
Teddy KGB.
The Teddy KGB with the metal door. Yeah, not like that.
No,
don't have many of those in Hartford, I would imagine.
Yeah.
Okay, so you've got your poker experience from there. Have you gone on to play in any of the sort of regular tours? Have you got out there to mix it with the higher level of competition, maybe?
Yeah, so I've played lots of the. Do you know what? I've forgotten the name of the tour. It was the one where it's the Grand Prix.
DTD? No?
Yes, that's the one.
Oh, okay.
But did you play around the football grounds when they were doing that? Or,
it was that one.
Yeah.
So I kind of mixed it up with those guys then. I played one of the APATs in Blackpool.
Good.
One of the team events there. I didn't win, so I don't mention it.
A lot of people don't win. We have them on most weeks, it has to be said.
Were you in it? Rob, were you in a team then? Yeah.
Yes, I was with the East Hearts team.
Oh.
Ah, right.
Lisa.
Okay. With Lisa. Yeah.
Lisa.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Okay.
Right.
Okay. We're joining dots. We're joining dots here. So, sort of returning gently to the writing. Who were your influences? Who were your favorite writers?
So I think it comes from lots of different places, really. So I think the first thing that kind of springs to mind, weirdly, is so one of the characters in Sharkbait is called Achilles, and I kind of always been interested in Greek mythology, and was happened to be reading a Stephen Fry book about Greek mythology, and kind of I think one of the links just kind of went into my head from there. But I quite like thrillers. I mean, just thrillers in general. So things like Jeffrey Deaver. There's a guy called Mark Dawson who I've read a lot about as well. He's got some really good spy books and things like that. But I think it kind of comes from lots of different places, really.
It was really interesting. And tell me, from a TV. So I'm trying to really get a picture in my head of, what this platform was for you to write these books. So I can see your poker knowledge, I can see writing, and creative talent. So from a TV point of view, what types of shows do you watch, enjoy, like?
So I would say it's things like Breaking Bad.
Yeah.
Obviously there's an element of drugs in Sharkbait, as you know.
Yeah.
Thrillers, really, I guess. So I'm trying to. I quite like historical stuff, which doesn't really tie in that much with the stuff that I write. Yeah.
So you like really classic stuff, but yet when I read your book, because in reading books, you either like an author early or you don't, right? And the material is part of it, but also the writing style is part of it. And you've got a very easy writing style. Okay, it's not it doesn't challenge, right? Which is fantastic. If you just want to spend, while away an hour or two, rushing through 50 pages, it's just perfect, right? And actually, I'm a big fan of Lee Child. Love his stuff, and I just think it's quite similar. It's it's just very low denomination. It's not complex, and I'm complimenting you here. Believe me, I'm not insulting you. It's in tune with the needs of a wide part of the market, I would have thought. And I can see Breaking Bad in there, so it's complex structure but told in a very easy way. And when I talk about complex structure and interesting stories, so just give Lee a little insight into This Is Where You Fold, because you mentioned Mike Postle, and I think a very good link in is Mike Postle. So tell us about that.
So This Is Where You Fold follows a main character called Steve Ash. And Steve starts with a very comfortable life. He's got a nice house. He's got young children and nice wife, and everything is kind of just pootling along nicely. Nothing really ever dangerous or crazy happens. And he decides to move from London to Hartford, and in doing so, makes friends with a guy called James. And one night in the pub, he and James, as I'm sure many people do, try to come up with ideas for businesses. And one of the ideas that they come up with is to create a poker table that allows the casinos to be able to see what cards each player has at the table. Now, the reason they would want to do something like that is because it will allow them to build profiles on each of those individual players. So the players who are loose and like to gamble can be separated away from those players who are tight and don't really play very many hands. And the idea behind doing that is that they'd be able to increase the rake that they have through the casino. So they go and pitch this idea for a business to one of the major casino brands that they happen to know somebody who knows somebody kind of thing. And they decide to take them on. And so they build these casino tables and they deploy the tables out to lots of different casinos and things go quite well. But then his friend decides that he's not really interested in doing this in a partnership anymore and cheats Steve out of the business. And so Steve finds himself without a job, which he's quit because he wanted to go and do the business, and he's got lots of debt, which he has suddenly got to pay off. But he knows how the tables work, and so he decides to create something that allows him to see the same cards that the casino can see, but in quite a sort of subtle fashion.
Nice.
And uses that to try and get himself out of debt.
Wow, this is Andy Booth. This is Andy Booth of Card Room Direct. I'm sure it is.
I was just literally.
I said, you like that, Lee?
Yes.
What could you do? What could you do with that information? I mean, you wouldn't have to put your iPhone on your knee and look down like a pleb all night.
And then deny it. Yeah.
And then deny it. No, you could be a mastermind. You could like have some sort of, long hat or tall hat or something. You could be just an incredible sort of bad guy.
Well, you could quite happily be sat in a separate room with a control with just stroking a pussycat on your knee. Is there anything better? Yeah.
Than seeing all of that cash roll in? That's what I'm thinking. That's really good. And tell me, now I haven't bought this book yet, and I will be buying this book. Reactions. What sort of reactions have you had? And I don't want to hear it's good, or I really, in terms of the plot and how you close the thing down or how you reach conclusion in book one of the series. We should remember that there's a series, so we must assume that our hero will be alive and kicking at the end of it. Your close friends, what have they said to you about the plot?
So lots of them have kind of said that they want more, basically. It's left them wanting to read more of the story, and there's lots of people who've read it who've never really played poker before, and they've enjoyed the story as well. And then there's people who've played lots of poker, and they've enjoyed the little intricate details that I've got in there. So there's things like waiting for a valet who never seems to show up, and just little things like that that really.
Back on the GUKPT, Lee.
I was going to say I definitely know which casino chain it is now. Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
We're only joking, of course. So a good reaction and an honest reaction.
Yes. Yeah.
Well, I don't know whether you heard what Shirley said on Sunday night on the show. She was just straight away talking Hollywood. I mean, it was as simple as that.
Super excited. Well, but listen, before we move on to Hollywood, and we will, there's two things that we should do. First of all, we're going to do this. Okay, so you guys out there, we are going to playing Turbo Millionaire in 6 minutes time. So 6 minutes to 11 now. We'll play it out at 11 o'clock. Remember, there is a signed copy, an actual book, right? It's not a Kindle download where Rob comes by your house and signs your iPad. It's nothing like that. It's an actual book to the winner of this week's Turbo Millionaire on top of your 2 APAT entries. So it is definitely worth winning Turbo Millionaire this week. So if you'd like to play, just pop Turbo in the chat box and Lee will do a random draw and we'll talk to one of you guys at 11. So hopefully we'll get a few entries there.
And we've remembered to do it tonight, which is good,
well,
isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's important.
We learned our lesson. So I'd set a reminder tonight to make sure.
Absolutely. Now listen.
We got it in.
So my next question is for those people who are slightly breathy with anticipation for book 2, how far into book 2 are you? And, when is the likely release date?
So I am around about 20,000 words into book 2. So the first book was 56,000 words long.
Yeah, so
So almost halfway. Yeah.
No, it's got to be 60 or 70,000. We're gonna challenge you. Right. Well, we need listen. We haven't done it, but we have to do it. So Leigh, I want you to. I'm going to pitch a book idea, right? So 50, 60,000 words. How long? I mean, when will you release book 2? Is there a plan? Would you get this side of Christmas?
Yeah, definitely this side of Christmas.
Well, there's a gift for a few people, I'm sure.
Yeah, I think I'm going to try and get the manuscript finished before the baby gets here. So
I was going to say, you do have a few things, kind of
brewing
potentially.
Yeah.
But that's okay. Listen, the book is important. You now have customers. You have set expectations. So, unfortunately, you're just going to have to get that book done. You're going to have to work every hour of the day. Okay, so that's the book. Now, Shirley was very excited to be, featured in, and presumably, so she'll be in book 2. Is that the plan, or a character called Shirley Cole? Are you likely to make that character a police character?
Well, it's up to Shirley.
Okay.
So we're gonna have a chat tomorrow about kind of where this general direction of the story will go. I'm not going to tell her everything, of course, but give her some idea of where the story is going to go, and then leave it to her to come up with something that she wants to kind of influence within the story, so to speak.
What do we think, Leigh? Exotic dancer, maybe?
I was going to go for a balding tax accountant, but yeah.
We don't want to put Shirley there. It's far too early in Shirley's life to be a balding tax accountant. I prefer the exotic dancer, and I think you should discuss that one with Shirley.
She could work. She'd
be amazing.
Shirley Cole could work for the fire service.
Oh, wow!
Get Paula to give us some insight into
DS.
That would be
and then you'd have DS Paula. It'd be great. It'd be a role reversal.
Role reversal.
I like it. Yeah. Okay. We can help you with this, Rob, right? We won't do it live on the show, but what we are going to do live, right? We've got 3 or 4 minutes, so we'll have a bit of a laugh with this if we can. So, Leigh, I want you to be thinking of a plot idea that you've got for a book, okay? You think it could be the next winner, and you're pitching Rob to see whether he'll take your idea on, okay? So, my idea... Right, and I'm lucky because I've had a chance to think about this, but I bet I'll screw this up. Come on, Leigh, you're a smart guy. It can be about accountancy or something. Okay, maybe not.
Obviously,
So I'm thinking about a failed business leader, right? An absolute brute of a man who somehow becomes president. Can you work with that? Can you work with that?
It sounds vaguely familiar, that story. I'm not sure where from. Yeah.
No, it's not possible. It's not possible that could be a story. You think?
Do you think the guy could be like really self-tanned?
I like it.
A little bit orange.
I like it. What would we call him? Something poker related. Okay, let's not do it. Leigh,
we'll call him Flush, shall we? Yeah. Well, I was thinking. I was now thinking, as all good books need to now be a trilogy these days. So I was thinking, we could then go on to this guy getting assassinated in book 2. That's an absolute.
Is there any way we could squeeze that into book 1?
Well, you want to assassinate in book 1? We could assassinate in book 1.
If we could do it in the first chapter or 2, that would be really helpful. Now, obviously, it's not going to help sales, because it's going to be a very short book, but it'd be a good one.
Yeah. Absolutely. Guys, don't forget to get Turbo in the chat box if you want to play Turbo Millionaire. We've got 2 minutes left of the break. I'm just going to give a couple of shout outs to the guys. We've got a couple of tournaments that have actually finished now.
Fantastic. Let's do it.
Well done to Maximilian Schneider from Germany, who won the heads up tonight. Very well played to you. And in the Sunday roller, Dean Pearson only went and won all of the chips.
How many did he get?
105,000.
Yeah, that's nice.
He's got in total. So he is going to have a decent stack for Sunday's roller. So, and we're down to 21 players now in the squads, PLO8 squads, and we're playing top 18 in that. So we will come back from the break very close to the money in that.
Fantastic.
So Turbo in the chat box, guys, if you want to play Turbo Millionaire tonight, just a bit of fun, 5 questions. You get a 50-50 as well. Fastest one of the week. We'll pick $33 of tournament dollars plus a signed book from Rob.
Oh, we could put Rob in, but what would we do if he won?
Sign his own book. Well, we did have Alan. Alan played on Thursday, didn't?
He did.
And actually ended up winning. But we put Alan on because obviously of his millionaire story, which was an epic.
Did you hear that story, Rob? Alan Horsburgh.
I did.
Yeah, it's a great story.
I saw the video.
Fantastic.
He handled it very well.
He did.
Didn't he? Yeah. How would you have had? I think my toys might have got thrown out the pram a little bit more than his did. Or maybe when you're in that scenario, you do just kind of go, well, okay, I'll just keep calm with it all. Maybe.
I think the shock would probably stop you from doing anything, right? Because you think you've got the money in the bag, and then suddenly you don't. So I think the shock would stop you from doing anything. But I definitely think I'm kind of with you. I'd be looking for tables to flip.
Yeah, it's very much like that.
Yeah. I think everything in there that can't be sneezed upon is bolted down. That's my understanding. He wouldn't have been able to flip anything. He could have flipped off Jezza. I think that would have been a worthwhile move. But he showed himself, I think, to be an absolutely stellar bloke, because I guess at a point he thought he'd won 32,000, so he went down to 1. So the net loss in his mind was £31,000. Holy Godiva, that's terrible. That is terrible.
It's a lot of money.
Yeah, it's a lot of money. Of course it is. Okay, Lee, have we got anyone?
Well, I don't know whether I'm seeing all the messages in the chat tonight.
Very unusual if we don't have anyone.
It seems a bit bizarre. I am kind of thinking, am I missing some?
There's only one thing for it. We'll have to call Kai Hutchinson.
Yeah, absolutely.
He's our go-to.
We will get Rob to play it if we need to. It's not a problem. That is our go-to.
I think we should get Rob.
I'll just give it another minute and see if any comes in, because Facebook tends to sometimes play a little bit funny with me, and I don't think I always see all the messages that come through. But we can happily get Rob to play it. I'm the same.
And
set a time for the week.
I tell you what, I bet if I'd offered this audience, virtual greyhound racing, they'd have been in there like it was nobody's business.
Yeah,
it's not too late. We could still do it. We can threaten them with that.
Completely.
Okay, let's get.
We'll get Rob to set a time. I think.
Let's get Rob to do it. You're not going to win your book, Rob. Believe me, you're not going to win your book.
It'll get one later in the week for sure.
That's fine. I am going to play this competitively, though.
Oh no!
You go for it, my friend.
There's only one way to do this. Honestly, you've got a time to set, my friend. It needs to be 5 out of 5 and a good time. That's for sure.
Okay, let's do it. Okay, so have you seen us do this before, Rob?
Yes, I have seen it.
Perfect. So the only thing that I will tell you is that you've got 150-50. At any point, if you think the question's a bit tricky, I can take away 2 of the answers. And of course, it is pretty much a timed event. So if you're lucky enough to get to 5 right, the timing required can sometimes be very tough. So fast as you can, I guess. So if you are ready, sir, I shall give you the first question. Let me just take the volume down a little bit. Here we go. So your time will start now. Which is a book of the Old Testament? Position, occupation, job, career. Tell me if you want anything again.
I'm going to go with, could you read them again?
I can. A book in the Old Testament: position, occupation, job, Job, or career, Job.
I think I'm going to go with job, please.
Oh, let's see. That's the right answer. Well done.
Oh my gosh. Pronunciation.
Oh my gosh. Well, I had to play with the game, right? So Tom, Max, Siva, Jay, and Nathan make up which popular boy band? The Needed, the Requested, the Wanted, the Demanded.
The Wanted.
There we go. You've got a horrible set of questions here, my friend. But you're right. You're 2 for 2. You've eased into safe territory across the dickhead line. Okay. Oh my God. Which of these words is onomatopoeic? jump, sing, clap, wriggle.
Clap.
It's the right answer. Well done. You're 3 for 3. Doing nicely now, Lee. Okay, Rob, what sort of dance accompanied Psy's smash hit of 2012, Gangnam Style? Was it snake charming, horse riding, wave surfing, or pole dancing?
Horse riding.
Yeah, I like it. There you go, 4 for 4. Right, for the clean sweep. Here we go, Rob. Summon to assemble is the definition of which word? Condone, convoke, convive, or contend. So summon to attend, to assemble. Condone, convoke, connive, or contend.
Could I do the 50-50, please?
Of course you can, yeah. So it is either convoke or contend.
I'm going to go with convoke.
Go with convoke, folks. Here we go.
I like that.
It's the right answer. Oh, well done, Rob. 5 out of 5. That is pretty impressive by any standards.
Horrible sets of questions, but 2 minutes and 6 seconds. Not bad time at all.
Well, we're
very good time.
Yeah, we don't want to give you back your book, Rob. Okay, we want that book coming into the APAT community.
Seriously, Des, Job. How are you not pronouncing it Job?
Yeah, well, I of course I could have, but the questions were all about career, right? So position. I could hardly go Job and position. It would have given the answer away. Yeah,
it's from the only reason I know that is it's from I'm not sure which Mission Impossible film. It's in one of the Mission Impossible films, isn't it, Job?
Is it?
I can't think which one it is, but I definitely remember it's referenced in one of them, definitely.
Well, listen, there we go. Rob has only gone and scored 5 out of 5 in a pretty quick time, giving himself a shot at 2 APAT entries and his own book. How impressive is that? I can't believe he's going to come here and take all the goodies. Lee,
well, he can have the dollars, but surely we'll find a home for the books.
Yeah. Listen, I'll auction the book or I'll buy the book. I want the book. So one way or another, we're gonna get the book from Rob. Of that, there is no doubt. So let's talk poker for just a mo. So I have the PL08 6 Max up. I think we are looking at. We'll put the chip leader up, who I think is on table 18.
Okie doke.
Okay, so the chip leader is one Peter Wigglesworth. Why am I not surprised? Very, very capable PL08 player. So that we can have that in the background, talk through a few hands, continue to talk books and football and poker with our guest Rob. And, before we, maybe even take a look at the poker, I just wanted to ask you briefly about Gutshot Publishing, Rob. So a really interesting name, right? Poker orientator, certainly, a big poker term, Gutshot, and indeed was a very famous poker business in the not too distant past. Is that, are they people you know, or have you signed with an agency, or have you created something yourself? Is that your own publishing house?
Yeah, it's my own publishing house. So
great.
Just something that I've made up myself, basically.
Fantastic. And are you looking for other poker writers, or is that a little, far down the...
I mean, potentially. I think it'd definitely be something that I'd be interested to do. I think... So, I mean, the thing is, I can't write the books fast enough that people want, for people to read them, right?
Yeah.
So it benefits me to have lots of other people in, and of course, I'd be happy to share my knowledge and the things that I've learned, and I quite like to read it as well,
Yeah. Do you think could you, how could you regionalize the books? So, for example, if you manage to find a distribution deal in the States, for example, do you think would you wholeheartedly want that story to remain in Hartford, or would you, look to regionalize it?
I think if I'm honest with you, I'm not sure. I think it depends on. I like the idea of it staying as it is, but the locations for where things happen kind of, to a certain extent, don't matter that much as long as it's the same story. So I think as long as the same story is being told, that could happen in the USA, it could happen in Australia, it could happen in Russia. There's no the story works in any location. So
Yeah.
I don't think it would be something, if I felt that there was an opportunity there, I don't think it would be something.
Well, I guess one of the more recent things where you've seen that is something like The Office.
Yeah,
obviously,
great example
from a writing, but obviously it's a from a TV point of view. But pretty much, they were able to pretty much kind of move that straight across into America, and it worked well. I think another one which worked quite well was Shameless, which was used to be the Channel 4 series that was set in Manchester, and they've switched that completely to America, and again, hugely successful. Same character names and everything, and just literally just changed location with it.
Yeah.
I guess
it is doable. Yeah.
I guess the only challenge, if I'm sat in Rob's shoes, would be that if you are trying to, obviously develop a character and what have you, it's quite nice to be thinking about one character as opposed to that character having sort of a different look and feel in different markets, and how do you control that as it gets sort of bigger, hopefully. But sometimes you have to follow the dollar or the pound or wherever the right deals come from. Should they?
See, I mean, there's a lesson to be learned here, isn't there? Because if you want to be really successful with a book, then what you need to do is you need to send your main character to a school for magic, which means it doesn't really matter. It doesn't matter then what country we're really talking about. You can kind of get away with it. I mean, I don't think anyone's done it, so it's still a possibility. But that could be one. Yeah.
School for magic. I like it. Yeah. So this magic school, would they perhaps build RFID poker tables?
They could do, couldn't they? Yeah.
They'd have just a factory floor full of dragons, and they're building RFID poker tables. I like it.
I think it's great though, Rob, that you say you're managing to be self-publishing with this. But I mean, more and more people have got the ability to do that, and I don't know whether that's because of the online world has made it simpler to do. Well, I say it's simple as if it's like it's just you can just throw these books out. It's obviously a lot of hard work and a lot of effort goes into doing it. But it used to be very much you'd put stuff across. Publishing companies and just get knockback after knockback. Whereas now we seem to be in a world where people can go and do it themselves if they want to, and that can be in a wide variety of things, from writing a book to brewing your own beer or whatever. It now seems to be a world where it's a case of, well, if you've got a passion, get on and do it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Simon Lawler is suggesting Henry Porter as a good name for your central character in this factory that creates RFID tables.
I like
Henry Porter. Yeah, that would work.
I like that.
Yeah.
Do you think he should have some sort of horrible scar?
Oh yes, he's got at a poker. After a bad beat.
Gets hit by a glass. Yeah, I like it. He gets glassed. I like it. Yeah, it's beginning to feel gritty and English again. So it is not so much Reno, more sort of Redford or something. Something a bit like that. So, just talking about poker for a little, Rob. So, obviously we've heard a little of your live poker experience, and that's been pretty interesting to learn. How about online? So, have you played much online? Does online interest you?
So I think online is I probably play more online than I do live, but I think I prefer live because you're with other people and there's a social aspect of it, right? Yeah. But I think, I do play live. I actually love playing PL08, as we sort of said before. And I've done, in fact, the most money I've ever won was online, and I won it. There's a bit of a story behind this, but I actually won it at the back of a cinema.
Oh, I love it. Did you have to break somebody's knees or something?
But it was online, yeah?
Yeah, it was online, yeah.
Okay, so first things first, what was the film that was showing?
So it was Star Wars Rogue One.
Okay.
So there's actually there's a bit of a sad start to the story.
Oh, let's do the whole thing.
It's fine. So
I feel this. There's a book coming here. I genuinely feel there's a book coming here.
So my dad unfortunately had a heart attack and was in hospital.
Yeah.
And so I'd gone up to Blackpool, and he's fine, by the way. There's
Good.
You know, he was in the chat before, so I don't know if he's still listening or not, but anyway. So I'd been playing a lot of play money tournaments, actually, just to pass a bit of time. It didn't matter whether, I was still in the tournament when it came to going to visit him, because you can just kind of bin it off. So
nothing at stake.
So exactly. And it was at Christmas time. So we'd had Christmas Day, and then it was on Boxing Day. And I just kind of decided that, I don't know why, but it just took me that I wanted to play in a real tournament. And so I started at 9 a.m, just playing on my mobile phone, and entered the big 1650, as it was then. And played, and I didn't tell my mum that I was playing a real money tournament. I just told her that it was a play money tournament, because I don't know why I did it, to be honest with you. I think I didn't want her to worry or something like that. So I was playing, and just seemed to keep doubling up and then knocking players out. And eventually it got to around 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and I was still in the tournament, and there were 80 people left. And my mum said, "Okay, we're going to go and see your dad. Can you come off?" And so I had to break the news to her that actually it wasn't a play money tournament that I'd been playing in. It was a real money, and she didn't believe me. So she just said, "No, come on, you can play until we get to the hospital and then come off." And as we were driving to the hospital, I kept saying, there's real money at stake here, Mum. There's like $3,000 up top, if I win. And I could sort of see the moment that the penny dropped, and she went, is it really real money? I was like, yeah, it is. So we went to see my dad, and I said, I'm really sorry, but I've got to, I've gone really deep in this tournament. I don't want to give it up. I know that's not, it's a little bit rude, to be honest with you, but do you mind if I play?
Well, thank God he hadn't had something like a heart attack or something.
Yeah. That's it. So I mean, he was fine with it. And so we played through the tournament. And earlier in the day, my mum had said, do you want to go to the cinema later? And of course, I thought I wasn't going to be in the tournament by this point. So I was like, yeah, let's do it. So we went from a hospital, and when I got there was around 80 people left, and by the time we left we were down to the final 3 tables, and I just didn't know what to do, because obviously we paid the money for the tickets, and I didn't feel like it was right to sit in the cinema car park and wait for the tournament to play out. So my mum and I went in to the cinema, and we went and sat right on the back row in the corner, and I kind of was slouched down in the chair.
Beep,
with this,
beep, beep.
Yeah. So I was playing with playing the game, trying to make sure no one else could see the glare from my phone, and my mum kept sort of popping her head over, and we got to the final table, and then as people got knocked out, I let her know, and we got down to the final 3, and I remember very specifically the final 2 hands that I played. So I got dealt Queen 7 on the big blind, and one of the guys just flat called, and the flop came Queen 7. So dream flop.
Dream.
And the guy bet, and he bet the pot. He made a pot size bet, and so I thought, well, I'll just play this call. So of course I just called, and then he did the same thing on the turn, and then the same thing on the river. But the river bet was him going all in, and he was the person who had second place chips. And then I called, and he'd limped with pocket kings, so he missed, and it was obviously not a great beat for him, but happy days for me. And then the guy who was in second place only had 3 big blinds left, and so he just went all in on the next hand. And I had not Queen 7, King, I can't remember, I think it was King 6 actually, and he'd gone all in with King 5. And so there were no 5s, and ended up winning the tournament. And of course, we were in the back of the cinema, so I was very excited, right? And I couldn't celebrate or anything, so it was just my mum and I at the back of the cinema with our arms in the air, like.
I'm just trying to picture these other people in the cinema seeing this young lad with this slightly older woman in the back of the cinema, and they're giggling, and the hands are up in the air. It's a nightmare scenario you're painting. There isn't any amount of money that I want to be involved in that particular scene. How did you contain your excitement? That must have been just amazing.
Oh, it was difficult to do, to be honest with you, but I don't remember a lot of that film. I think I probably need to rewatch it, to be honest with you.
It was a rubbish film.
So how much was the cash, Rob, in the end? So about 3,000.
Yeah, it was just over $3,000.
Brilliant stuff.
Fantastic. And it normally costs about $3,000 to go to the cinema. That's an amazing return.
Yeah, so I broke even.
Isn't it? It's funny how poker has a way of sometimes with timing. So what was going on with your dad and everything, and everything else? It just it managed to give you a bit of positive at the time. It has a funny way of doing that.
That's it.
Yeah, and it'll have done a ton of good for your mum, I'm sure. You know.
Yeah.
So it takes a bit of pressure off.
I presume you treated her to a large popcorn, yeah? I'm assuming.
Yeah. We went and had a celebration at McDonald's afterwards.
Yeah, that's right. Straight into McDonald's.
Yeah.
I'll have a really big Mac. I'll have a huge Mac and a large fries. Oh, yes, please. Yeah. Can't do that today. No amount of money. Well, actually, you probably can now, can't you?
Oh, everything's reopening up.
Everything's open. It's crazy times. Okay, so you're clearly a capable online player. Have you been able to replicate that sort of success, Rob? Do you play much online? Is it PL08 that you turn to online, or do you play more conventional games?
So I generally play. Right now, I play more PL08 probably than Hold'em. I think I came to PL08 at the start of this year, so I'm very new to it. I'm still learning how to play, and I'm not. I've cashed. I've actually cashed quite a lot. Actually, I sound like I'm blowing my own trumpet a little bit there.
That's all right. That's okay.
Yeah. So that's probably the one that I play the most, but generally I play Hold'em.
Yeah, it's just
if I'm looking back at my whole online career, it would be Hold'em that's the main game.
If you're still developing your PL08 game, I would strongly recommend go back and have a listen to a couple of our early shows with Pete Wigglesworth, who's on the table we're watching at the moment. Because it's well worth listening to for an hour or so in the background if you're doing something else, because
Absolutely.
you'll pick up a bunch of really useful little tidbits here and there about how to play the game later on in the tournament, that kind of thing. Really, really good, very knowledgeable player.
Yeah.
Okay.
Very disciplined, and he will fill you full of confidence that you now know how to play this game. And then listen to the episode with Blackpool's own Kai Hutchinson, and he will fill you full of confidence that there's a completely different way that you can play the game as well. Yeah. And, both of these guys are absolutely phenomenal players. And that's the beautiful thing about poker, right? Different approaches can work. But, we have been fortunate. We've had some really great PL08.
And the other piece of advice just coming in the chat now from a really well-respected poker player in Asa McGrath, who's been on the show a couple of times now. And what Asa says is that Rogue One is definitely the better of the last few films. It's well worth a rewatch, so you need to do that. Yeah.
Great. Okay. I'll get Disney Plus and then.
Yeah.
Boom. So in talking about different styles and stuff like that, what would you say was your style? I'm going to assume you're a numbers guy. Is that fair?
Yeah. So I am. I've done a lot of studying of the game, for sure. I've tried to work out all the pot odds and things as I'm going along. The thing that I guess online, I used to play with a HUD quite a lot, so I had lots of statistics all over the place, and actually found that it kind of made it too complicated, and I was trying to sort of tying myself in knots with trying to work out the best things that, the best way to play the player, and actually the stakes that I tend to play, usually that's just the sort of straightforward way, and occasionally, throw a few bluffs in here or there where you can tell a story specifically with that. So yeah, I would say that that's my style.
That's interesting because a number of the pro players that we've had on the show in the past few weeks, when we talk about HUDs with them, pretty much they've all said, you should only be using it for, really kind of top level information, really. It's very easy to get bogged down in all the statistics that are there, but ultimately, it's not going to be beneficial to your game. So it is very much just picking the top 2, 3, 4 stats and focusing on those to help your game improve. So interested, that's what they say as well. So very similar to your findings.
Yeah, that's it. I think, I mean, one of the best things that I've found that I've tried to do is try out different styles. So go into a tournament where you're not worried if you lose, and then so I've been in tournaments before where I've tried playing really aggressively and done lots of 3-betting and check raising and see how it works. I mean, I hate it, to be honest with you. It's not my style,
No,
but
that's fair
you
enough.
know, I much prefer trying to work out what people have.
Yeah. So what is it about Omaha, specifically the high-low game? Is it, do you feel it's more action, or it's more thinking for you? What makes it work for you?
I think there's a bit of the fact that there is more thinking involved. I think it's less difficult for sorry, let me work out the right way to say this. Because of the way that the game works, I think it's harder for people to get lucky against you, and so the variance is slightly less. So then it becomes a little bit more towards the skill. There's obviously still an element of luck involved with the game, but for me, I think you could have the nut low tied up on the flop and then have lots of draws to hit the nuts, for the high, and being able to try and work those two things at the same time is the thing that I think I enjoy doing the most.
So do you get involved in hands as often as you would in Hold'em, for example?
No, strangely, I think I'm in them less, but I tend to be in them with hands where I wouldn't play many hands without an ace. I don't think.
Yeah.
So if I don't have an ace, unless it's 2, 3, 4, 5 or something like that, it probably wouldn't be something that that I would play.
Yeah. So you're obviously a pretty patient guy, because I think you're describing a patient, considered style and approach there. That is not Friday night after a few pints. That particular style, I think. So tell me, given your experience with HUDs, and I'm going to assume, do you play most of your poker at Stars?
No, I used to,
Okay.
but I've switched now to Party Poker.
So you're playing on Party. So that sort of leads into my question, which was, obviously Party have taken a step away from HUDs. They've become a little more, I guess what they might term recreational, player friendly. You've got real names and stuff like that. I mean, how do you find that particular proposition versus, the more HUDs and the more, how would I say, pro advantaged type sites?
I think for me, it's just more fun. Ultimately, at the end of the day, I'm not a professional player, and I don't really have an aspiration to be a professional either. I like the idea of getting good at the game, but I don't think it's something that I'd want to do as the only thing I do full time. Yeah. And I think that Party it just caters for that a lot more. I mean, I've seen lots of tweets from Rob Young asking for, opinions about different types of games, and you don't really get that with PokerStars. I don't really know who runs PokerStars, if I'm honest with you. Whereas with Party, I know it's Rob Young, right? So if you've got an idea or some opinion about the way that they're running the site, that someone's listening to you. So it just feels a little bit more. It feels a bit more like they're interested in the players that are playing on the site than PokerStars does.
Yeah, no, I think they're hungry. I think it can be easy after many years at the top to become, I don't know, a little complacent perhaps. And I'm not sure it's fair, but many would say it probably is fair to describe PokerStars in that way. I think they maybe have become complacent in some areas. I think they're outstanding in other areas. But Party are hungry. It's been a long, long time, probably 2006, since Party were dining at the very top table. And I think, alongside Stars and more recently GG, I think, any one of those three sites could be a market leader in a year to 2 years' time. And, for the pretenders, it's going to take innovation and great execution. So I think that's, where the real benefit with the likes of Rob is he's very open. You know, he's like a sponge. He's willing to listen, and he has ultimately the authority to put a lot of those decisions into play. You know, I think he can get resources behind a lot of things. So it's good. I mean, it sounds to me as if you think Parchi are doing a lot of the right things. What have you made of the fact that many of the world's largest live tours are now, and I absolutely place APAT amongst those, of course, are now essentially playing out their tours online. So there's been a plethora of content and tournaments and, big money events, festivals over the last, 10, 12, 14 weeks, and there doesn't seem to be any end in sight. I mean, is that really exciting for online poker, or does it become tiring at a point?
I don't think it becomes tiring necessarily. I think it's an individual decision, actually. So, there is an abundance of choice for playing online, and it depends on the individual person and how much you want to play. So it might be that you see a particular series that looks good, and therefore decide that you're going to have a little break before that comes in, and then play loads online, and then take another little break afterwards.
Yeah.
I think that'd probably be the way that I would approach it, is to kind of look at what's going on and and see what takes your fancy, really.
Yeah. So have you done the Vegas trip? Or do you have a bucket list item to go and play in the World Series of Poker? And if so, would an online version interest you, given its accessibility?
So I've been to Vegas. It's absolutely amazing. I think for me, I don't feel like it has the same prestige as having the live tournaments. So, you have to go in and sit through sit at the tables and go through the grind and have the hours there. And, I think that there's a different kind of stamina that you need to be able to reach the end of those tournaments versus an online. Having said that, it is more accessible, and there's definitely the possibility that I might take a shot at one of the tournaments, because then I can boast about having a bracelet. So, my opinion might change depending on how well I do in one of the tournaments. But
no, I mean, I like the fact that you would seek out the authentic experience, and I think that's the thoughts of a lot of poker players. Potentially a shortcut to a bracelet if one is fortunate enough to get one, but it'll be interesting to see, in years to come, as to whether those bracelets will be valued, as a Raz bracelet in a 300 runner sort of bracelet laden field would be. I'm not so sure, but time will tell. But certainly there's a lot of top events online over the next X number of months to certainly potentially win life-changing sums of money. I mean, the money involved is huge, right?
Yeah, that's it. It's exciting.
It is.
It's going to be a crazy summer if it's not been crazy enough already. I think it's obviously we've the Stars Summer Series is kind of coming to a close, but I'd be very surprised if they don't put something else out between now and the W Coupe. Obviously, you've got the WSOP on GG. You've got the WPT World Online Championships on Party is just crazy. 100 million guaranteed, 3 different price point entry points on it. That's going to be crazy, and all these things are running for the entire summer. We're pretty much talking from, I think they start in a couple of weeks and run right through to September. It's so lockdown might be easing and people might be heading back to work and maybe doing other things, because apparently these things called pubs apparently. So how they work is, you might not have come across them, but how they work is they're basically they're little establishments. You'll find them dotted around the place, and you can go in there and meet up with people. They serve alcohol apparently across the bar area. Only difference now is apparently they're going to take your name and address and hang on to.
They're going
to hang on to that. Yeah.
Oh no.
So apparently that's one of the new rules is they've got to. How is that going to work? Seriously, I mean, pub's going to keep track of who's actually been in the pub on a Friday night.
Are they? Is that a thing?
Yeah.
Really?
That is a genuine thing. Yes.
Oh my God! I thought you were suggesting that Deliveroo were going to be delivering
No.
pints.
They want as part of track and trace. So they're talking about having the ability to know that if somebody then actually got coronavirus, that they would be able to go back. Well, I was in the pub on Friday night, and the pub could then go, well, actually, this is who was in the pub on Friday night.
I guess the likes of Witherspoons could probably do it because they've got an app for ordering food, haven't they? I don't know if you can order
you could
drink
just log
with
in
that.
on that. You could probably log in
something
on that.
like that. Yeah, maybe. It's interesting. I mean, it's interesting. We've got to be thinking in new ways, haven't we? It's a really strange time that we live in. And listen, talking about really strange times, and obviously, we pitched you the book idea about the business leader, failed miserably, taking over the world, and ridiculous. You rightly said that was a ridiculous story, could never happen. Here's another one. Picture Liverpool winning the league. Okay, now I know it's ridiculous. Okay, don't laugh. It looks like it's going to happen, Rob. And to be honest, not without a little bit of bloodletting up at Vicarage Road. It has to be said, in fairly recent weeks, fairly recent memory. How are your boys going to finish in the league, do you think?
I think we'll. Oh, I don't know. Do you know what? I'm so superstitious about this sort of stuff. I don't want to say we'll be all right. Although my gut feeling is that we will be all right. I feel like I can't say it because if I say it, we'll lose the next 9 games and get relegated below Norwich. So
it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen.
No, I think we'll be okay. I think it's going to be close, but I think we'll survive.
Who did you play in your first game back? I'm trying to think. You got a. Was it Leicester?
Got a draw because
it was
Leicester
a draw, right?
Scored,
That's
Leicester
right.
scored in the 90th, and you got an equaliser.
92nd or something.
90 plus something. Wasn't it?
Yeah.
I thought you played well in that game. I thought, given Leicester's form prior to lockdown, and obviously form clearly is out the window, but they've shown that they work well as a team. Thought you played, very workmanlike. I thought you looked pretty decent, pretty strong in that game, I have to say. Albeit, and I don't know if you noticed this, when the team came onto the pitch for that game, they sauntered on, they walked. And I saw Liverpool saunter on against Everton on Sunday evening, and I thought, I don't like the look of that. You don't want to see a team walking onto the pitch at the start of the game. You want to see them running on, sort of looking a bit tense and stuff. They all walked on a bit half-heartedly, talking to each other.
It's been a bit there so far. The first week, isn't it? First week back,
it has.
There's not been many games where you go, wow, that was an absolute corker of a game, is there?
Yeah, but are you quietly confident just based on what you've seen in the first, 2 games, right? You've had 2 draws, am I right?
Are
you playing tomorrow night?
No, we're playing on Thursday.
Okay.
So we're playing Burnley on Thursday, which might be great timing.
Yeah,
following up from.
They had a really difficult Monday evening, didn't they?
Yes, it wasn't great. I mean, I was watching my brother-in-law does a Twitch stream, and he was playing Football Manager, so I was watching him play, and my phone kept lighting up. And it's just like, Man City have scored again.
Yeah.
So
well, it was predicted. Natalie, who does the football show with us, who's a massive Burnley fan, she kind of had already called it that she thought it was going to be, pretty much hide behind the sofa stuff on Monday night, and that's how it turned out. So in more ways than one, actually. Yeah.
I mean, Watford lost 8-0 to them earlier in the season.
Yeah.
So.
Well, yeah. I mean,
it happens. It happens to the best of us.
Well, you lost 6-0 in a cup final to them.
Yeah.
I mean, Sissy are unbelievable, and Asa is just adding in the chat box. The first week has been awful, apart from really Sissy, and he's absolutely right. I mean, 8 goals without return. They've looked imperious, and I have to say, in the 1 year that we being Liverpool find ourselves in pole position to win this thing. Just the cost of dropping those points at Goodison will be felt because, I think if you go to Man City knowing that 1 point or maybe 3 points will win you the title and you get stuffed, which is, it's just possible. That's a horrible sort of end to the season. Horrible. So I'm not looking forward to that one, I have to say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Danny Strange says, great show again, guys. Well done, Rob. So I suppose actually if Danny were to be a writer, then actually you've got even more in common because he's #Blue Blood, #East Heart. So you're a Blue Blood guy as well, yeah?
I am, yeah. So, I mean, I guess you guys know a lot about the Blue Bloods already.
Oh, too much to be honest.
Yeah, we do.
Honestly,
We do.
Every single show.
We started to ban them. We just told Di, sorry, Di, you can't come on tonight. Sorry, it's just, no, not tonight.
No, seriously, that Di Farrell, she's been wanting to get on this show for weeks. Every day she messages me, say, when are you going to have me on? I've said we can't afford the satellite link to the States, so it's just not going to happen.
Georgia, I mean, it's a long way away, right?
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
I'm not going to say it, Lee. I'm not going to say it. I'm not going to say it. It's always raining in Georgia this time of year. Oh, I did it. Sorry, it just slipped out. It slipped out. It's.
So how did you get into Blue Blood?
So actually, Shirley nominated me to become a member, and I know lots of the guys that play who are in that group already, and obviously there are a few in there that don't know me as well. And so it really came from Shirley nominating me, which was, I mean, I couldn't believe it, to be honest with you. It was a really nice surprise.
Yeah. And how long did it take for you to learn the special handshake?
Yeah. Did you get a wand? How big was your wand? I heard Danny Strange is a really small wand, and I just can't imagine why that would be.
I wouldn't like to comment, to be honest with you.
Oh, dear.
But no, they're a great bunch. Like, I mean, I've already learned a lot from them. I've posted a few hands in the group, and they've been very supportive with the books as well. It's been great to kind of be a part of that group, really.
Yeah, I have to say, Danny's done a magnificent job. I mean, it feels like he's almost acting as a bit of a bludgeon for you, across all of the communities. And I love that because it's all about awareness, right? If people aren't aware that these little stories, that's not the right way to express it, but that these books are out there, if they're not aware, they're not going to read them. It's just not easy to find stuff these days online. So the fact that, Danny is widely known in the community and has been, wearing out some shoe leather, sort of promoting your books, I think that's just priceless, right?
Yeah, I mean, I hope, Rob, in all seriousness, that Danny didn't want too much commission. I mean, was it okay? Yeah,
just pay him on Sharkbait downloads. Yeah, I'm telling you, 10%.
Yeah. I promised a lot of steaks to people on Sharkbait, to be honest with you.
Oh, he's oversold on Sharkbait. Brilliant.
Oh dear.
24,000% gone. But that's okay though. I feel comfortable with that.
So I'm curious to know, Rob. So the obviously the trilogy, which the first one is out now. So the naming of those books, the order in which you're naming them, is there a logical flow to that, or because it's maybe not the flow you would expect? With Fold coming first, or
so the title for the book actually came when I wrote a particular passage that's in the story, and I kind of wrote, I won't give too much away, but one of the lines in that passage was, "This is where you fold," and I wrote it and then was like, "Oh, that's so good." So but then it kind of fit in with what the other books will be called. So the second book, which I'm writing at the moment, will be called "This is where you call," and then the third book will be called "This is where you bluff." And
see, I said I was out walking. So my other half and I go out for a walk sort of 6-7 o'clock every night with the dog, and we'll chat about what's going on. So I was explaining who's on the show tonight, and I was explaining about your trilogy of books. I said, I'm pretty sure the final one will be called "This is where you raise." I was absolutely nailed on. That's what it was going to be. And it's obviously not. Okay, "This is where you bluff." Yeah, that works. Yeah. So
the idea, and what I think I'm going to try and do, is have that as something that either somebody says or somebody thinks in the stories as they happen. So it'll only appear one time, but it kind of came from that first.
Okay, I'm just going to go and now buy up thisiswhereyouRaise.com.
Just get that immediately.
I'm just going to get that just in case.
I'm on easy space as we speak. I'm trying to get a middle one as well. Okay.
Just in case somewhere down the line, Rob's got all these book deals, and he's gone and lost the whole lot playing PLO8, high stakes on stars. And he thinks, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? I'll need to write another book. What can I write? Oh, this is where you read. I'll just go. Oh, someone's got it already. Yeah.
Oh no.
Got to think ahead of this.
Take a look at This Is Where You Fold. Return of the Flop. Okay, get that one. Go for that. Okay, there's always a return of the right. Oh dear.
So this is what I think these are going to be. So these will be the middle three of 9 books in total, you say, and then in about 10 years' time you'll do the first 3, and then you'll sell it all to Disney, and then do the last. That's pretty much how this is going to work, yeah.
I think so. Yeah, that's the way I've planned it. So
excellent stuff. Luckily, you won't have anybody that'll, I'll be questioning the plot lines or anything, so it'll be fine. It won't be a problem at all.
What?
Exactly. I'll probably see if I can get the guys that wrote Game of Thrones to write them.
What do you make of the whole Game of Thrones saga? I mean, a lot of people disappointed with the end, the last season.
People wanted the whole thing rewritten. It was
very, very unhappy. But the writer has actually come out, and he seems pretty unhappy with the whole thing, also. And he'd obviously been working very closely with, was it Danny and Danny, the 2 producers, Dan and Danny, clearly they've not seen eye to eye, and it can be very difficult to close these things down, particularly where the plot is as complex as Game of Thrones was. But where do you stand on like control of work, and would that be a great problem to have? You wouldn't worry about it because, frankly, at that point, you can buy the Big Dipper.
I mean, I think you have to finish things properly, right? Especially when you've gone so far. For me, at least, if I'd written a series where the first 7 series have been really well received, I'd want to finish it off properly so that people can go, that was a really good series. They'll never make anything like that again.
Yeah.
And it feels like a shame to kind of left it the way that, I mean, the storyline I thought was quite good, but I just don't think that there was bits of it that were a bit ropey, and it just seems a shame that they didn't. It felt like they kind of went, well, we're nearly done. Let's just get it done and get the hell out of here.
Yeah, it did feel a bit that way. There were so many loose ends to tie up, though, and I've read the books, and frankly, they invented some stuff towards the end there. I didn't see a Starbucks in any of the books. It just there was no Starbucks in the books. No. Where did that come from?
Barry Richards says season 8 was pants.
Yeah, it was. It was disappointing. But I guess again, maybe that depended on whether you were a huge student of the books. I guess if you hadn't read the books and you'd started to follow the story from the TV series, while you still may not have been satisfied by the end result, ultimately it's the only end result that you've been aware of, as it were. It wasn't competing with anything else. And those people may or may not have had a slightly different view. One of the challenges with that author in particular, of course, is the time taken to release later books in the series, and a real concern that might not happen at all. How difficult or otherwise is it to actually commit to a series, writing a series of books to yourself?
So I think that there's an element of self-discipline that you have to have with it. So like I try and make sure that I write at least 500 words a day, and that actually the way that I tend to write is I don't type in on my keyboard. I actually dictate it into my phone, and so writing 500 words for the day can be as little as 20 minutes time. But if you keep doing that, then you can keep progressing the books. I think you have to be able to commit to doing the series that you've done. So I guess it depends on your viewpoint, but for me, I wouldn't want to start something that I didn't think I'd be able to finish. Like something tragic would have to happen for that to happen, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So
how do you pick up and put it, if you're dictating parts of it every day, when you've got the time to do that, and obviously you've got loads going on with work and lockdown, obviously making plans for at home for family and everything else that's going on in your life at the moment. So do you have kind of a storyboard somewhere that you're able to go back and go, right, okay, I know where I've left this and I'm picking up, and then it flows? Or do you actually find when you say 20 minutes, actually the reality is you're better off doing, you know, an hour or a couple of hours a day and then having a break for a couple of days and doing it that way?
So I have a storyboard that I follow. So I have a rough view of what I think the plot's going to be, and then write the story to that. And I usually will take a couple of minutes just to reread the bit that I've written yesterday, so that I know kind of where I've got to. Sometimes I'll sit down for 20 minutes, and that 20 minutes turns into 40 minutes, and then 2 hours later I've written 2,000 words and done way more than I expected to.
Yeah.
But I find that after a while, I get into a bit of a creative burnout quite quickly. So I can't really do loads more than that, because I feel like I get to a point where I'm not. I can still write it, but I don't feel like it would be the best work that would be, that I'd be able to produce. So then I put it down and go away and do something else.
Yeah, that's pretty. That is very disciplined. You sound like a really efficient writer, because it's obviously it's really easy to, I don't know, write 1,000 words and to then spend 2 hours polishing those words and, framing them and then just ensuring that they're absolutely perfect. Do you not do that, safe in the knowledge that, you're willing to invest in an editor at the end who will effectively do that independently for you? Or do you get sucked into that sort of process?
So there's always several rounds of editing. So actually, This is Where You Fold went through 8 different rounds of editing.
Wow.
Wow. And that was
with the same person, or?
One of the rounds. So the first round, for example, would be me writing it.
Yeah.
And then the second round would be, so I would go through, reread what I've written, tidy it up, make the language, a little bit nicer. There's occasions where I might have used the same word in consecutive sentences, so just changing things like that. And then, so from that point, I would then send it to beta readers. So beta readers are people, friends and family, and different people who I know from playing poker, and ask them to read it and get constructive feedback on, does the story flow? Do the plot points make sense? Is there anything that kind of was left at a loose end or that you didn't like, or just, what can I improve, basically? And they will give me their feedback. And then I'll go through and do another round of editing. And then from that point, it will go to the actual editor, and the editor will go through the manuscript, and she will suggest lots of changes. And so This Is Where You Fold, I think, had 15,000 different change notes that she'd either made herself or suggested that I should think about doing something different. So then I got to go through
15,000.
Yeah.
Well, do you have to go through each of those one to go, yeah, we'll do that. Is it literally that process of going, no, I don't agree with that, or?
Pretty much, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, pretty much. And then because of the way that happens, so there's a particular mode on Word that you do that in. Sometimes because you can see what was written before, and then
don't tell me it's track changes.
Yes.
Holy Christ, Lee. Can you imagine a legal document with 15,000 tracked changes? Oh my God, that's incredible.
So, lots of things, you can have full stops in the wrong place, and all, lots of things that don't quite make sense, or, you can't see it because of the way that it's presented to you. So once you've been through and done all of those 15,000 changes, or however many changes it will be for the next book, I'll go back through it again and look for places where I've got double spaces and things like that, and start to tidy it up. And then after that, it goes to the ARC team. So ARC stands for Advanced Reader Copy, and those guys get a read through of the manuscript, and they might suggest little things that maybe need changing here or there. But at this point, you'd hope it would be quite a tight manuscript, so there shouldn't be much that needs changing. It's kind of like the way I see that one is like it's the dress rehearsal before the show goes live. So.
And that's what those guys do for a living. That's pretty much, they just pretty much read manuscripts and pick out the any things that have been missed so far.
So no, so those guys are all volunteers.
Oh right, okay.
It's the only bit that is done professionally is the actual editor.
Right, okay.
Who goes through it, but everyone else is done it voluntarily. So
wow,
it's one
fair
of
play to them.
I mean,
they're obviously passionate about it, so I would imagine it's a job they love. I don't think you could do it without having that passion for books.
That's it. I mean, it's one of the things that I'm very grateful for because it's, although it's my name that's on the front of the book, really there's lots of people that contribute to the overall story. Yeah.
And tell me, Rob, does it, is it ever a problem, and I'm making an assumption here, which may be wildly wrong, but is it ever a concern or an issue that maybe your editor doesn't have the same technical knowledge of poker that you would have, and therefore she may not be able to identify glaring issues that she might otherwise find?
Yeah, so for the technical parts of the poker telling, I try to go to people who know about poker and just get them to focus on those specific parts. But she did try. She did a great job, but there were certain parts where she didn't quite get it, and she added things in. So like when Steve's playing in a tournament, she added pound signs at the end of each bet. As though he was betting a currency. Gosh. And of course it's not quite right. So then I had to go through and change those back. So, there's little bits, but it's nothing. I think she kind of, the way that we worked was that she kind of trusts that I know what I'm talking about with that.
No,
sounds like you need to be getting together at the G in Blackpool, for a weekend. Get her through a poker tournament, and get up to speed on the lingo. That's what you need to do.
Absolutely, yeah.
No, absolutely. That's absolutely fantastic. So Barry Richards just leaving us now. He's enjoyed the show. Well done, Rob, he says. And I saw that Shirley left us a little while ago and also said, well done, Rob. So, well done, Rob. You're telling a great story tonight. Okay, guys, so we're on a break in the poker. There are
we're down to 4. Yeah,
believe it or not, 4 left in all of the tournaments that we've had running tonight. There are 4 players left. We haven't looked at one hand of poker.
So Pete Wigglesworth has busted in 6th place. He was actually being very complimentary on your knowledge of Omaha high-low earlier on, Rob. So
thanks.
If it's a compliment from Peter when it comes to this game, then very much you take that. So
it's a good one.
It's actually been quite an eclectic mix of. On the final table, we've had 2 from Argentina, 1 from Greece, and 1 from Russia. So Fernando Scheitel bust in 5th, and we've got 4 left now. So Dennis from Russia, the young Ben Burnhill from north of the border, Martin from Argentina, and Yanis from Greece. When we come back in 2 minutes' time from the break.
Well, this should be interesting, and we should look to maybe cover a couple of these hands just to give you a chance to call some poker on your adventure with us tonight, Rob. And,
absolutely.
And tell me, what we've got a couple of minutes left. What does success look like, either from this is where you fold, or the series as a whole? I mean, does one measure that in pounds? And if so, what sort of percentage do you give yourself of succeeding? As we know you're going to need a few breaks, right? You're going to need a few breaks. But you sound to me as, that you're actually it feels like you're managing a campaign. I'm sure you know who you've got to speak to, try to appeal to, try and get the book out to. I'm pretty confident you've got all of that stuff down. And if you need a hand with any of that, just ask people, myself included. And I'm sure people will just help you wherever they can. But what percentage do you give yourself of reaching that point whereby you can say, well, do you know what? Maybe I can give up the day job now. Maybe I can really try and build my portfolio of books up.
It's a good question. I think there's an element of so that for me, there's a few goals that I've kind of got. So I'd like to be able to make it a full-time job.
Yeah.
Would be the first milestone, and then I think after that, there'd be buying a house and well, moving into it. um, so I think those are kind of the two goals that I've had in mind, and I'm not necessarily saying that I will get to those points from just doing these 3 books. I think it will take a lot of time and a lot of luck as well, kind of as you said, and I've had lots of people helping me promote it, so it's not going to be something that I'm able to do on my own, for sure. I guess that's kind of where I'm looking at getting to, though. I don't think. I mean, it's going to be hard, right? I'm going to have to work very hard to get to that point, and keep writing books and publishing books. I don't think it'll stop at the trilogy that I've got going. Yeah. I've got some other ideas for different stories that I could write. So, and I think that there's. Sorry, I think there's a.
Yeah, carry on.
I think there's a few things that I need to kind of get under my belt to achieve those goals.
And you've, as the wily guy you are, you've stayed away from giving it a percentage. I like that. You're a bit superstitious like that. Okay, don't go there. Are there examples of authors who've come through? And I'm sure there are. And I just wonder if there's one in particular that you look at as sort of an aspirational case of somebody who's self-published, worked hard, came up with a really nice niche, and actually made it. Are you able to track that journey as to how they actually got over the line?
So I mentioned a guy before called Mark Dawson who has written thrillers. So he's got a long-standing series, which he writes kind of spy thrillers, and that's the guy that I'm basing a lot of my current setup on. Yeah. So he also, as a sideline, has a non-fiction educational business where he teaches authors exactly how to do that.
Yeah,
and so
yeah.
Lots of the stuff that I've done have been based on the courses that he's set up.
There might be another revenue opportunity as well to enable you to, again, take that next step, but become 100% focused on writing, whether it's teaching for a period of time, until you make your breakthrough. Very, very cool. Very, very cool. Okay, guys, let's take a look at the final hands in this tournament. Let's see what you know about PL08, Rob, because Leigh and I don't know a huge amount, we have to say.
Okay.
Well, we're coming straight into to an all in a core which has been chopped up, so that's fine. So Dennis is our short stack here. He's just got 300,000, which is pretty much 4 bigs now. But as we know in this game, having watched this for weeks on end now, that 4 bigs is plenty in this game. Yeah, it's you don't need to worry about that. That's you can make that last a long time. So. Yeah, Yanis has been a chip leader for majority of this final table, and then he's got the 2 middling stacks in Martin and Ben. As we're just watching Yanis and Martin play out this hand, seems quite cautious, but I guess Rob, caution is the way this game's played, isn't it? It isn't all guns blazing a lot of the time.
Yeah, I think that's it. I think a lot of it is about making decisions on the flop, so it's hard to be able to judge where you're at pre-flop. I mean, you can have a great starting hand, so you may have, for example, ace 2 3 4, but if the flop comes king queen jack, then that hand isn't great anymore because you can't make your low, and you don't really have many unless you've got the suits to make a flush, you don't have many opportunities to be able to make a solid hand. But it's a great pre-flop hand, to start with. So, you can make those judgments. You wouldn't, for me, I wouldn't be wanting to try and go all in with 10 big blinds. I'd be looking to try and get to a flop, basically.
Yeah, see where your position is there, what you think you've got percentage-wise to improve your hand, as they've both pretty much got it all as close to all in, and as is the way in this game, quite often it's chopped up. Yeah, and then to see whether you're in a position where you're likely to improve your hand, basically. Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. That's the way I try to approach it.
Yeah. So Dennis is all in, and Ben's made the call as Martin has. So Dennis is on for a triple up here, potentially. Other two like to check this down, I guess. Yeah, the deuce doesn't really make much difference. It does go check. Third spade on the river is going to get a little bet and a call from Ben, and it ends up as predicted. Dennis does get the triple up because he was sat with the ace of spades, and so hits the flush, and also I think he picked up the low there as well, didn't he? As well, yeah.
Yeah.
That couldn't have got much better for him, actually.
No, that ran out quite nicely, didn't it?
Yeah, just to say the least. Yeah.
Yeah. Nice.
Couldn't have asked him much more. But he had ace 4 for the low. So
ace. Yeah. So, I think that's one of the things, like, not worrying about if you've got another low card, you don't have to worry about if you pair one of them up. Because obviously you can't use it from that point.
Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of counterfeiting your low sort of thing, isn't it, really?
Exactly, yeah.
And we're going to lose Ben, unfortunately, as Yanis hits the trips with the queens, I think it was. Yeah, so and no low in play. So Ben finishes in 4th place. Well done to him. So 3 left then. So it's Argentina versus Greece versus Russia. It's been a while since we've actually had not had a UK player in the final 3 when we've been watching these squads games. But we do get a lot of players, Rob, that will play. They'll just play the Omaha games that we put on a Tuesday night and a Saturday night. You just literally see same faces, and they're the only 2 tournaments they might play in the week, which is cool. So
it's nice that you've got the 3 continents there as well, so everyone's in a completely different time zone.
Yeah, I'm amazed that you see when you see kind of the guys. We get quite a few Canadian players that will play these events, and players from Brazil, and obviously it's kind of middle of the afternoon or whatever or early evening for them.
Yeah, it's people. I mean, the thing with online is that people can play any time of the day, right? So. Yeah,
no, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, do you have that thought when you're writing? Do you think that the fact that we live in a kind of culture where everything's everywhere now, where it's everything is worldwide, isn't it? So you release a book or somebody releases a song or a film or whatever it is, and it's just everywhere.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, one of the things that has surprised me a little bit with releasing the books is quite how widely they've been read. So it's not just been the UK where I've had people pick the book up. I've sold a book in France. I've had someone read it in Japan, and then people in the USA, Australia, Canada. It really is like a worldwide thing, and this is me just starting out, as not a very well-known author, and I'm already getting sales in all 3 continents. Sorry, not all 3 continents, but the 3 different land masses, if you know what I mean.
It's quite mad. It's just say it used to be.
Yeah.
Say back in the day, these things would get released at different times and whatever, and the people working. Whereas now it seems to be pretty much everything is a worldwide release, and it's just out there for everybody straight away. Yeah. Or everything's become on demand, doesn't it? So.
Yeah, that's it. It's not, you don't have to be in a specific place at a specific time to see anything.
No, and I guess with what's happened now with the kind of ebooks and things means that. Whereas you go to a point where that's going to go to print, and then you'll get used to be a hardback had come out first, and then eventually it would come out in paperback or whatever. Of course, now it's the minute you're done, it can be there. It's available for people to download straight away.
That's it. I mean, even the paperbacks now are done as a print on demand, so they don't have a load of my books sat in a warehouse waiting for people to buy them. It's just
wow, really? So it's a case of they just print them when they need them.
Yeah, that's it.
That's insane, isn't it? Really,
I mean, just the time frame that they can turn it around as well. If you ordered a paperback that's on print on demand, tonight, it would be delivered to you tomorrow. So somebody's got to go and set the printing press up, print the book, and then get it distributed. And that's all got to happen within a really small time frame.
Yeah, I mean, the whole print world is just the last 10, 15 years in the print industry is just transformed what they're capable of doing now. And no longer is it kind of massive print runs and that kind of thing, but for pretty much anything actually. That's it. Technology has gone crazy.
Yeah, it's good as well because it means you're not wasting paper and things like that. So
yeah, very efficient.
A friend of mine wrote a book about a Labrador in World War One, Buddy the War Dog, and we sell those books for a charity. I volunteer for Labrador Rescue Trust, and so she donated a bunch of the books, and we sell there. So she did kind of self-publishing, and she said it was it's quite a hard slog, and she's got more books that she wants to do, and these have sold reasonably well. I think she's kind of sold a couple of thousand books, and and it's something she enjoys doing.
Yeah.
So from her point of view, but she did say she found it quite tough. The whole she was kind of trying to sell them by going around different events and things as well, and trying to kind of get a name known that way. And
sure,
because she's not really kind of internet savvy and all that kind of thing. And crikey, just as we're talking, that's bang done,
unbelievable,
and over with in literally in seconds. We heads up lasted I think about 2 hands. The flop came down 3-4 ace with 2 clubs, and then they pretty much just got all the chips in, and actually, but both had 2 fairly decent hands there.
Yeah,
and it was 2 pair I think in the end, and a low for Yanis, and he takes it down, picks up $163 for his efforts tonight. Well played to Martin. He picks up $110, and Dennis, who we saw finish in third, $78. Wow, over lightning quick.
Well, that's the way to do them. And it's funny, you were just talking about distribution and technology and what have you. But I don't know if you realize this, Rob. But just before we went on air this evening, I put a slight response to one of your tweets. You'd tried to share the book with Kevin Hart. So yes. I just copied Rob Young in and said, look, really good read, to encourage you and Kevin to have a read. So I think Rob could be a really nice ambassador for poker. Rob's liked it, so he's certainly seen it. So hopefully you'll have another customer or 2 coming your way shortly, because it's a little bit of luck like that. If Kevin Hart was to retweet it, that can make a difference, I guess.
Yeah, that's it.
Touch wood.
It's I saw that just before we went on the show, and I was trying to calm myself down because I was feeling very excited about it all. So
yeah, well, no, thank Rob for coming back and noticing it. So let's see if anything comes of it. But listen, guys, that would appear to be that. We have finished the night pretty darn quickly in the end. It's been 2 hours and 15 odd minutes, Rob. So it has been absolutely fantastic. Thank you for spending that time with us and sharing sort of all of your insight in terms of, how you.
One thing we should say is we've spoken about it, but how can people actually get the download of Sharkbait if they want to?
So if you go to robertneedhambooks.com.
Put a link, Rob. Put a link in the chat box right at this point in the video. And for people who sort of reach this point in the video, they'll see it there. That is the simplest way to do it, because then it'll just be a click through, and click throughs are always better.
But it's Robert Needham. It's robertneedhambooks.com. Yeah,
that's right. And then it's just on the home page. There's a place to put your email address, and then you'll have it all sent to you through. And
it's electronic, so pretty much they'll get it sent straight to their inbox. And just start reading it.
It took me
the one thing
30 seconds. It took me 30 seconds to receive Sharkbait. It was very, very quick. And it was available in multiple formats, including a PDF. So if you just want to download it to your laptop and read it like that, you can do that. Very simple.
And then if they're looking to then buy the first of the trilogy, that's available on Amazon, isn't it?
That's right. Yeah. So shall I can put another link in for that.
Yeah,
one
do it. Please. Absolutely. Yeah. Great stuff.
The one thing I would say is if you do download it, that you should check your junk box and your
Yeah.
promotions box as well, because it quite often doesn't send it to your inbox, which is very frustrating. But
Yes.
But that's the way of the world, isn't it?
That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it does happen pretty quickly, guys. So if you don't receive it, do check spam. So once again, thanks very much, Rob. Have really enjoyed your company tonight. Wishing you the very best with with the series and with sales and with all of that good stuff. Big thanks to all of the guys out there who've listened in with us tonight and who've played poker tonight. I'm sure, all being well, we'll get Rob back at some point in the not too distant future to maybe give us a little preview on book 2. So certainly, this side of Christmas, and to just give us a general update on how it's all going, because we'd love to follow your story.
Obviously, in the meantime, fingers crossed for August, and hope all that goes well, Rob.
Yeah, thank you very much.
That's the most important thing. Yeah,
that's it.
Do we know yet whether it's a boy or a girl?
Yes, we're having a girl.
So it can't be Steve.
It can't be Steve, sadly, no.
It'll have to be Shirley then.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Well, listen, the very best of luck with that to you and Christine as well. Of course, Rob, we hope you have a smashing next couple of months. Okay, guys, that's it from Leigh and I and Rob tonight. Tuesday night, of course, there is plenty of poker going ahead tomorrow night as per the schedule. And Leigh and I are back on Thursday night at 10 o'clock. So we hope that you will come and join us for that. Until then, it is officially a wrap. Good night and have a good day tomorrow. Cheers, guys.